what's up? My name is Daniela, and in this video we are going to be wrapping up February 2025. So first I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read last month, then I will update you on my TBR numbers, and to wrap it up we will also be going through what happened on my channel and in my life last month. So in February I read 7 books in total, and 3 of them were non-fiction, 2 of them were romance, and 2 of them were contemporary. I wasn't even trying to read that much non-fiction, but somehow it happened quite naturally. And from these 7 I had 2 3 stars, 4 4 stars, and 1 5 star. So the first book I read in February was The 24-Hour Café by Libby Page, and ever since I heard about this book I was like, give it to me, because it's about a cafe. I love cafes, and it's set within 24 hours. It was supposed to be very cozy, or so I thought. It wasn't actually as cozy as I expected it to be, but I still really enjoyed it. In this book we follow 2 main characters, Hannah and Mona, and they are best friends. They live together and they work together in this cafe, except for they don't usually work the same shift, and because of various circumstances they grew apart a bit recently. So first we follow Hannah, who starts work at midnight and her shifts ends at noon, and then the perspective shifts to Mona, who starts working at noon. And so yeah, it takes place during the 24 hours that they are working their shifts. I found that the atmosphere of this book, which is all set within this cafe, was one of the strongest elements of this book. You could really see all of the customers, and you could smell the pancakes, and you could hear all of the sounds, so that was really well done. The cafe is on a busy street in London, so all kinds of people come in. Both Hannah and Mona took this job at this cafe as a temporary solution because they are both artists and they are trying to make it in London, and now they are 30 and it hasn't worked out that well. And now Mona has got a really good job offer that will help her with her artistic career, and Hannah feels some type of way about it. We also get some shorter chapters from the customers' points of view, so that was also very interesting. And overall the themes of female friendship and going after your dreams were all good, but I just found the execution a bit lacking. So throughout the book there are also flashbacks to Hannah's and Mona's past, and during the first half of the book, when we follow Hannah's perspective, I just found the mood not very cozy as I expected, but just very miserable. It dragged quite a bit. I found some of the flashbacks unnecessary, especially when then in the second half we sometimes got the same situation from Mona's view, and it just got really redundant. But I definitely enjoyed Mona's perspective more. I was quite happy with the ending, although some things were a bit unnecessarily spelled out when we could have kind of gathered what was happening. So although this book wasn't as cozy as I expected, I would still recommend it if you want to read a character-driven book set in a cafe, and I give it 4 stars. Then I listened to a memoir, and that was Born a Crime: Stories from a South African Childhood by Trevor Noah. To be honest, I didn't know who Trevor Noah was before BookTube started talking about this book. I don't really watch the comedian scene, but everyone kept saying that this memoir is so amazing, and sometimes I do enjoy reading memoirs by people who I don't know, because if I'm not familiar with the celebrity that is writing the memoir but I still really enjoy it, they obviously did a really good job, and that's exactly what happened with this book. So in this book, as the title suggests, Trevor Noah talks about him growing up in South Africa. He was born to a black mother and a white father, and throughout his life there were often situations where he felt like he doesn't really belong anywhere. He was raised by his black side of the family. Throughout the book I was highly invested. I thought that the audiobook was phenomenal. He was doing all of the accents and voices and acting out the situations. The memoir includes some very heavy topics like abuse, violence, racism, so be aware of that. The memoir is structured non-chronologically and more so based on the topic or theme he is talking about, and at times I was a bit confused about how old he was when this happened, because it jumps back and forth and how it fits with the other things that he previously talked about. But I think it was probably the best choice for the book because it kept the book more organized and more engaging. While I was listening to the audiobook, I was thinking that I would also be curious about what happened when he grew up and how he started his career and about him moving out, but that's not really included in the book. The title says it, so it's not something I can complain about, but yeah, it's really only about his childhood and teenage years and maybe very early adult years. All in all, I highly recommend this book, and especially you need to read it as an audiobook because it's just that amazing. And even if you don't know him, just read the book. It seems that my camera is broken. It has been acting up lately and now it kind of just stopped. So I will try to finish this video on my phone. So the next book I read was Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. So in this book we follow Grace, who has just finished her PhD in astronomy. She is 28 and she went on a girls' trip to Las Vegas, and there she got a bit drunk and she met a girl and she ended up marrying her. The next morning she wakes up, the girl is gone, and she goes back to her life. She's struggling to find a job in the field. It is male dominated for one thing, and also she's facing discrimination because she's black and openly queer. So I was warned that this book isn't a romance, it is a general contemporary about our main character figuring her life, but based on the premise and the beginning, I was still really shocked by the style of the book and the writing style, which was very flowery, very kind of dreamlike, and also with dialogues that felt quite unnatural and cringe at times. One of my main problems with this book is that the main character is 28, but she reads like a 19-year-old, and not that it's not relatable that she's at this age and she's confused and she's not sure about her life direction, but she just reads quite immature and she is still really under the influence of her parents, well, especially her father. One thing that I liked was that there was therapy represented on page, and we even saw Grace try out a few different therapists before she finds the one that works for her. Now for the romance part, unfortunately, the love interest felt more like a manic pixie dream girl instead of a fleshed out character. She isn't even in the book for a whole bunch of it. At the beginning, it takes a really long time before they even contact each other and see each other again. And then there's again a whole chunk of the book where she's not even present. So definitely don't go into this expecting a romance to play a big role, but it has sapphic rep, so that is nice. But yeah, it's definitely more about Grace's journey. So I ended up quite disappointed with this book, even though I knew going in that the romance doesn't play a big role, but I just didn't end up loving the characters. I didn't vibe with the writing style or the overall tone and vibe of the book. So yeah, it was 3 stars. Then I read 3 ebooks, and that was for the first episode of my ebook elimination series. The vlog is now up, so you can watch that for my full thoughts. So I will just go through the books very quickly. So first in that vlog I read Work for It by Talia Hibbert. So this is a male small town romance, and I have been meaning to read something more from Talia Hibbert for years after reading and loving the Brown Sister series by her. So I called Work for It a romance between 2 grumps, you know, grumpy instead of a grumpy sunshine, but I really enjoyed it. It had the cozy atmosphere of the small town, and their relationship started off pretty rocky, but eventually it developed quite nicely. It was steamy, I enjoyed it, so that was 4 stars. Then I read The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory, and this is a female-male romance, and this is book 2 in the Wedding Date series. In this book we follow Nick and then Carlos, whom we already know from the first book. I didn't end up enjoying this romance much. I thought that it was super low stakes, which I usually don't mind, but in this book basically nothing happened, nothing that much was happening in the characters' lives other than one thing that kept being repeated over and over. The writing style was somehow worse than in the first book. I didn't love some of the things that happened in the romance, and I have a spoiler part of the video in the vlog, so if you're really curious, if you're wondering if it's worth it to continue with the series, you can check it out, because I wouldn't recommend continuing with the series, especially if you didn't absolutely love the first book. So there's that. I gave it 3 stars and I probably won't be continuing with the series. Then I read Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. So this is a collection of essays and I quite enjoyed it, but I thought that with it being published in 2013, it is a bit maybe not that relevant anymore. It contained a lot of media reviews, so it, for example, talked about 50 Shades of Grey and Hunger Games and stuff like that. The tone and heaviness of the essays varied greatly. So there were some essays that dealt with some really heavy topics, and then there were really lighthearted ones. I wish I read it back then when it was published, because right now it didn't give me as much as I expected, but it could still be recommended as a kind of entry-level book on feminism. And then the last book I read was ADHD According to Zoe by Zoe Kessler. So this is a book that a friend lent to me, and this was published in 2013, so I thought that maybe some parts of it would be a little bit outdated, maybe some of the resources aren't up anymore, and maybe some of the terminology was a bit outdated, but I still really enjoyed it. This is part memoir and part tips. So Zoe Kessler was diagnosed with ADHD in her late 40s, and in the book we have a lot of hilarious stories, but also some sad parts, because being diagnosed later in life means that you're kind of rewriting your whole life history, and it can come with a lot of grief, but also some relief that you know why have you been struggling your whole life, and now you can implement some tips or medication to fare better. One thing to note is that the book doesn't mention autism once, even though she talks about being a highly sensitive person and identifying with those traits, even though now we know that the framework of a highly sensitive person was based on a person who was then later diagnosed as autistic. And so I was quite curious if she later in life, since publishing this book, realized that she is probably autistic, and she has. So I found a post on her Facebook sharing that she is autistic also. I like that she talked about aspects of ADHD that people don't necessarily connect with ADHD, and even though I consume a lot of content about ADHD and autism, I still feel like I took something from it, and there are some resources and tips that I might want to look into. Obviously nowadays there are newer books on the topic, but I'm still beginning to read books on this topic, so for now I don't have any other recs, but I would say that this book is still pretty solid and good if you want to understand more about your brain or someone else's brain, if you have ADHD or you suspect that, or if you just want to read about the experiences of a late diagnosed woman with ADHD. And now for my TBR and other numbers. So in February I hauled 6 physical books and 1 ebook. I did a whole video, so you can check that out. I decided to kind of ignore my audiobooks right now in the stats, so not including that. Technically I didn't unhaul any books, but I think that some of the books that I read this month might be unhauled pretty soon. My physical TBR stands at 27 after February, and the physical TBR of books that I got before 2025 is 19, so I need to read these 19 books this year. And my ebook TBR is 37, not great, but we are working on that with that ebook elimination series. For my channel wrap up, so in February I uploaded 5 videos. I did my whole TBR video, I did top books of 2024, I did January wrap up, and then I did how to stick to a book buying ban video, which is a video that I've been planning to do for the past 5 years, and I'm not even kidding. So I'm just glad that it's finally out, and hopefully it can help some people. And then I also did the first episode of ebook elimination series, which I've already mentioned before. I did 4 live streams, so in March and in February I am sprinting regularly on Thursday evenings from 5:30 p.m. CET. I'm really enjoying the live streams. It is so nice to talk to you and also get things done. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the next ones. And for a life update, February was my main hibernation month, so nothing that exciting happened. I didn't have any trips or exciting plans, and you know what? That's totally okay. Like, I'm here to normalize that in some months not much happens, because like I had a holiday in January and I have some exciting plans for March, so it's okay to just have months where I focused on work and YouTube and cooking and doing all the stuff, and yeah, we will do fun things again in the next months. So that was my February wrap up. Let me know if you read any of the books I mentioned or how your February was, or if you don't know what to comment, leave me a cafe emoji for the 24-hour cafe. Like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!